episode number 12, and I'm here with my good friend, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Chris Rousakos, right?
That's
right.
right.
Your last name. So today we're going to get to know Chris and a little bit of his history, background, what he does, mindset, career ventures, maybe some travel stuff too, because you have been out and about around and traveled.
Yeah, I've done my fair share.
To a lot of different places. So, who are you and what do you do?
Chris Rousakos. I'm a storyboard artist, currently storyboard supervisor at Industrial Brothers.
Dope.
Been doing boards for the last 5-ish years, and before that I did about 2.5, 3 years as a 3D layout artist.
Nice.
To kind of get my start in the industry.
So you've been in the industry for 8 years almost.
I started April 2013. Is kind of when I entered.
So when you entered the industry, did you know what you were getting into, or was it?
In what way?
In terms of because the way our industry works is like there's different departments, right? So you were a 3D layout artist in the beginning, but then you transitioned to the storyboard artist.
Yeah. So I always knew, going way back, that storyboard artist was kind of what I wanted to be. That was always the track I was heading towards. So. Yeah, basically as soon as I found out storyboard artist was a job, I was like, okay, that's the thing I want to go for. And as I was in school, I gradually learned that if I really wanted to get a handle on, camera placement and staging and the kind of film language that I would need to be a successful board artist,
Right.
I realized, okay, then maybe I should get my start into layout first.
That's
really get my get my feet wet and learn the fundamentals of visual storytelling that you'd need for that job. And then from there I could then transition in once I felt I had learned what I needed to learn in layout. That's kind of what I did.
That's dope. One thing I noticed about our industry in general, so we're in the animation industry, I'm a 3D design artist, storyboard artist. In terms of the layout department, a lot of people undermine it, but it is very important. And so I did layout for a little bit as like a transitionary period, and as you mentioned, you get an idea as far as directing goes.
Yeah.
You're pretty much directing everything, and sometimes you do get bored, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But having that understanding is very important, and those people that do that job, they're kind of like swept under the rug in terms of like how important they are, or the role that they play in the entire production as a whole. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's very what's the word? I just had it. People swipe it under the rug. People don't give it its due. It's very much a linchpin.
They're not
position.
as appreciated as they should be.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted to say.
It's a super important role in any production, because after script and storyboard, all that stuff, that's the first step in the actual production of any kind of TV show or movie or anything. That's when they're sitting there and they're getting the boards that have been drawn in 2D. That's the job that has to figure out, okay, what from that can we take and interpret and make it into the 3D
literally the
show?
architects of the shots and the sequences.
Absolutely.
And then the animators go in and do their thing afterwards.
Everyone's working from what the layout artist did, from that point forward up through the comp, basically. And they're the ones who make sure that what the board artist did and what the writers did actually works.
Translates into 3D.
Exactly. And they don't get nearly enough credit as they should. It's a really important job and a little thankless.
So did you always know you were going to be in the animation industry growing up, or?
I didn't know exactly animation, but I knew something about that basically since I was like 3 years old and I picked up a pencil. I was
Actually,
like, yeah, 100%. When I was a kid, my parents had bought it, me and my brother, we had these like VHS tapes that had they're like bootleg ones from like Honest Eds or whatever, that had they'd have like 50 cartoons on them, all on these VHSs, and it'd be like old school stuff from like the 20s, 30s, and 40s. That's how I saw like really old Bugs Bunny and like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck cartoons that wouldn't play on like TV. That's how I saw like old Popeye stuff, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop, stuff like that. Those old Fleischer Studios Superman shorts from the early 40s. I saw those. And basically, I was like, okay, I want to do that. And sometimes it was flipping back between, okay, do I want to do comics? Do I just want to do illustration? All I knew was cartoons. And then eventually when I realized, you can go to school and you can actually, it clicked.
So when you were in high school, did you know like which college or university you were going to enroll to?
No. I found out in my last semester that Sheridan was a thing.
Jeez.
And like Seneca and stuff. I had put no thought towards it.
Right.
I was not the best, most dedicated
The thing is, when you're in high school and I guess middle school, you have no idea. Nobody kind of guides you in the proper direction in terms of like, but most people don't even have an idea of what it is that they want to get into, right?
Right. And
so like you mentioned too, the same thing for me. In my last year, that's when I was like, it was like either accounting, architecture, engineering, or animation. Like, and then same thing. I didn't know that existed in terms of a career choice.
I always knew it was going to be art related, but I didn't know what form it was going to take. Because up to that point, the only art school I knew about was OCAD. But I knew I didn't want to do gallery art. I never was interested in that. I just wanted to draw cartoons or whatever.
So this was in what, 2009?
2007, 2008.
Okay.
And then I struck up a conversation with a teacher randomly one day, like after class, and that was like, "Oh, why don't you go to Sheridan?" That's where like Disney gets half. This was back when they had that reputation that like Disney picks all their people from there and stuff, right? Them and CalArts. And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'll apply to Sheridan." And I did not get in.
Or you didn't get in?
No.
So what was the process and why didn't you get in?
Well, I left my portfolio to the night before it was due.
Oh, buddy.
And I submitted it. And then obviously I didn't get in. But I had no idea like how to do life drawing or anything at that point. I wasn't a great painter. I was a pretty good draftsman for high school. I didn't put in the work that I needed to. I was not the best student. And then I ended up getting the art. So they let me into art fundamentals instead.
Right.
So I figured, okay, I'll go there. I'll learn everything I need to do. I'll build a portfolio and I'll apply.
That's just how they milk more money out of you, bro.
Exactly.
I actually did the same thing. I had to take fine arts, the same thing.
Yeah.
In terms of building a portfolio. That's how they get you there.
Did you find that anything that you actually learned on it was useful?
I'd say yes, though, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, like life drawing, for example, anatomy, color theory, just like a deeper understanding of... I guess theories as in regards to being creative, right? Whereas before it's like I like to do this way, and it's like more all over the place. So you did art fundamentals at Sheridan, and which program were you in? Because there's two different ones, right? There's
art fundamentals,
a 4-year animation program, and there's a 2-year one, right?
There's the 4-year animation program, and then fundamentals they have the 1 year, which is the one I did, and then there's a 2-year, I believe. And if you finish with the 1 year and you don't get into animation again, I think they offer to give you the 2-year. So you end up spending like, some people spend like 3 years basically trying to get into,
I'm just trying to make my portfolio.
Yeah. Fundies was kind of, it was a bit of a waste.
On your end.
On my end. I can't speak to anybody else's experience doing it, but for me, I found, because I was so specific in what I wanted to do, like going in, I knew exactly what I wanted. I found that they had a bunch of different, like, they had a wide range of things where they were trying to cover you in case you wanted to go into architecture, or you wanted to go into glass blowing or whatever. One guy actually did go into that for a year. Yeah, he went to like one of the studios that they had there. They let him try it out once, and that was it. He was done, and he's been doing it ever
found his
since.
passion.
Exactly.
So he's a successful glass blower right now.
As far as last time I heard, yeah.
That's dope.
But in my case, it wasn't the case. I did have one class that I really loved, which was a painting class and a color theory class, which was the first time I really got to break down and understand that. But then, like, everything else, I learned pretty quickly. It wasn't really my bag. And I was kind of a slacker at the time, too, so I was hardly ever at class. I was more out enjoying myself.
Yeah, no, now that you mention it, there was a couple classes on my end as well that I found beneficial, but for the most part, it was a waste. I'm not gonna lie. I had this one class, like, you had to take extra ones. It was, like, about fallacies.
Oh, were you one of the electives?
Electives. I'm like, what does this have to do with my art career in the future? I was writing essays, and, like, I was like, I don't understand. So you got out of Sheridan, and then, so you graduated, and then how difficult was it at the time?
Oh, I didn't go to Sheridan in the end. I ended up going to Seneca.
Oh, okay, so you transitioned.
I did my 1 year, and then, because I'm an idiot, I left my portfolio to the last minute again. And I submitted it the day after I did it.
Right.
Didn't get in again. This time I decided I was going to take a gap year to just work, because I had slacked off so much. I realized I didn't have the discipline necessary to go into this industry and to go into, and to really just, had a little bit too much freedom all at once. And I took advantage of it. So I took a year off, just worked nonstop. And then I applied again. This time I got in, but I also applied to Seneca at this point. And Seneca I found was closer. I could you know, it was going to be cheaper for me, and it was only 3 years versus 4, and I don't like wasting time, so, or what feels like wasting time, so I figured, okay, I can get out a couple years or like a year or two earlier and stuff. And so that's what I ended up
you're
doing.
here now and you're a supervisor in the storyboard department, so
That worked out because
hindsight is 2020.
Exactly.
And you are where you are for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's dope. So you did the program at Seneca, and then so you finish schooling, you come out with whatever degree, diploma, whatever it is that you get. Then what?
Well, one of the things that was great about Seneca is all the friends that I made and stuff. They're all like my peers now and stuff. And a lot of the networking that I did there through like professors and stuff has greatly benefited me since. When I was in my last year, we had the option to do a animation portfolio with like 3D animation, or I think you could do like a lighting one, or you could do like a rigging one, I think, or a modeling one. Those were kind of your 3 options. And I didn't want to do any of those. I knew at that point I'd kind of got into my head that layout was going to be my ticket into storyboarding.
All right.
So I ended up striking up a conversation with my professor, who had been my layout professor there, and I knew he worked at Guru. He was getting ready to start the first season of Paw Patrol, and so I made him know that I was really hungry to, you know, get into layout, and he had an internship coming up at Guru, and that's how I got in. Basically, I talked to him, and he's like, okay, when you graduate, come talk to me. And then I graduated, and a week later, I got a call from the producers over there, and they're like, hey, we heard you want a spot on the layout team, and I managed to sneak in and get my foot in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it really worked out.
The power of networking and connections.
Yeah, and being sincere too.
Yeah,
you know?
well, work speaks for itself too, and if you're genuine and you're passionate about what you do, people realize that, right?
Yeah.
And then they want to include those type of people in opportunities that arise.
Yeah, I think there's a danger with networking where you think, okay, you only see them as like the relationship that works out, that can benefit you down the line. But if you come at it as like from like an actual sincere space and stuff, people can read it.
But those type of people stand out because it's sort of thumb, right?
Yeah. Or they reveal themselves sooner or later.
Intent is definitely, yeah. But I mean, from a survivability standpoint, everybody's looking to benefit from like a community-based, just like everybody's bringing something to the table, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand what you mean in regards to someone that's like eager to be like, yo, you want to be friends? You know?
Yeah. Just because they see like, oh, what you can do for them or something. Yeah, you can't ever be like that.
You need to separate yourself from those type of people. So how do you like it so far in the industry? 6, 7, 8, almost a decade, right?
Yeah, to get them up there.
Up there.
Yeah. It's like any job and any passion has had its ups and downs, and I'm sure you can attest to, right?
Yeah.
There are times when it feels like, man, I can't wait to get to work every day. I'm living my dream. It feels great. And then there are times where it feels like a job and it feels like a slog. And that kind of ebb and flow of it is kind of, I think, pretty par for the course. I'm pretty sure everybody goes through it. But overall, like, I can't imagine what I'd be doing otherwise. Like, this was always been my track since I was like a little kid.
Man, that's amazing. Even in from my perspective, when I got into this industry, like you mentioned, has been downs where I'm like, okay, this is grinding 9 to 5. It's a struggle, but it does pay off. And there have been days where you reach that point where you are working on something and you're like, I'm getting fucking paid for this.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's how you know you've made it in an industry that you're passionate about, right? When you are working and it doesn't feel like work anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I would say after being in the industry for almost a decade now, it's like planting seeds in different things outside of the industry is important as well if you want to. Because now you have that type of... I want to say, like, people look up to you in regards to, okay, this guy's a well-renowned storyboard artist or whatever field that you're in, right? So now you have, what would you say, experience, clout, like whatever you want to call it, right? So you can start your own thing on the side. Or do you do freelance and stuff? Or?
A little bit. Here and there, it depends on what it is. I'm one of those guys that I don't like doing the same thing for more than 40 hours a week. I need diverse kind of hobbies. So when I realized I was getting a little bored of drawing because I was doing it so much in my daytime, I figured, all right, let me pick up a camera and start figuring out photography. Right. I picked up an instrument, to try and learn how to play, things like that. Stuff that are still creative and get that kind of scratch that creative itch, but aren't related to my day job is what I've found has been the best like outlet for me.
Yeah, it was awesome. Creative expression.
Yeah.
I feel like we're very privileged in regards to being in an industry, first of all, but at the same time, being the type of people that are fueling those creative desires, right? Because a lot of people I know, they're in industries that it's like and whatever it is, engineering or accounting or things where it's like very redundant. I know some of my relatives and stuff, they are passionate about their jobs and stuff, but then there's the other ones where it's, like you mentioned before, it's a 9-to-5 grind.
Yeah.
But then when there isn't any creative output and you're not getting anything out of it, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because then you're just a cog in the wheel at the end of the day,
Exactly.
right?
And I feel like the people who get trapped in that, those are the guys that end up in those kind of grindy 9-to-5 jobs, and they end up getting miserable at it. It's because they're not finding that other thing outside of work to kind of get fulfilled from. So whether it's some kind of hobby or whatever. And obviously, like,
so where do you think that motivation and inspiration comes from? That drive for you to pick up a camera or to like explore different creative outlets?
Boredom.
Boredom.
No,
but what gives you that little bit of a nudge to be like, all right, I'm going to do this?
Well, for me, I always like just the self-improvement. I'm like, that's a very, sorry?
That's dope. Yeah,
that's a very big thing for me. I always, if I'm not bettering myself, and maybe it's from being like a shitty teenager and stuff, but like, and I'm like trying to make up for lost time.
You need to have a contrast point, right?
Yeah. But it's like, you know, whether I can get in better shape or I can pick up a new hobby, a new skill, even if it's something just as small as like dedicating the time to like read more or something like that. That kind of constant need to improve myself is a constant drive. And especially when I feel like I hit a particular plateau with work, finding that outside of work I find is really, really important. I don't like feeling stagnant, personally. I don't like feeling like my wheels are just spinning and I'm not really getting anywhere. So that's where my kind of drive for all this stuff comes from.
But having that level of introspection and awareness to be like, all right, I need to change something is important too. And that's a skill in itself, in of itself as well.
Yeah.
When you realize that, okay, I'm getting bored, but it's not because it's more of a mindset thing that I need to explore different things, not just drop everything. Because in today's generation, in regards to instant gratification, people don't stick around for very long. In regards, like, they take everything for granted. They want everything, where they don't understand the grind and the slow grind and the long term results.
The patience
that comes with everything. So yeah, and even I feel like on my end, growing up, whether it's the gym or whatever, like, specific games have played a part. In my mindset as well, and leveling up in regards to skill sets and stuff like that, because you can translate that. It's like the game of life almost, right? It's like, and then you notice that when you practice drawing for like a couple hours every evening, your skill level will increase. Whereas when some people, when they're younger, like family members or whatever, I remember, they'll be like, "Oh, you're so good at this." It's like, I didn't get good at this overnight. There's time invested. Yes, I had some interest in it from the first place, but then they discount something like whatever, painting, drawing, music, or whatever is anything creative, because they're like, I can't do that at all because I'm not born with that gift.
That is the most infuriating thing to me. I hate when people say that, oh, I wish I could draw like that. I'm like, pick up a pencil and start drawing. That's all it is. It's like, no. People have natural talent. They have That's an excuse that I think people give
It's fear-based mindset as well, right? They're like, okay, I'm shit. But they don't have that understanding that if you, whatever it is that you put your mind to, if you have enough dedication and discipline, you can increase your skill level.
Yeah, it's practice, right?
Practice.
It's finding the motivation, like, or the interest in it to want to sit there and practice it.
Remember that website called DeviantArt?
Yeah.
So there was a forum on that website. I don't know if the website still exists, and I would look at it. It's still there. There was one thread where it would show specific artists that draw every single day. It was the thing, it's like a year of everyday drawings. And I'd always it would show the latest post first, and then you'd go to their first initial post, and it would be some like scrappy, like weird sketch, and then the one that they did a year later will be some like fully fleshed out, colored, like Warcraft style, and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. That's just from a year of like dedicated practice, right? But as you mentioned, it's like having that mindset where it's like, I want to become strong, I want to become better, and you apply that to different aspects of life. you have infinite potential when it comes to that, right? It's just a matter of where you dedicate your time and energy, and then
Yeah, and I think the people who just don't typically, now I'm generalizing here, but like the people who maybe haven't found that thing yet, it's just because they haven't tried enough things. You know, everybody, there's always gonna be something that you're gonna catch, and it's gonna spark your way. Even if it's something like getting really good at a game on Xbox or something like that.
You
Still
can stream it on Twitch and make money.
Exactly,
which is crazy.
Yeah, like it could be your cooking or baking or whatever, man. Fucking, I don't know, hacky sack or some shit. Like, and it's just, you just gotta throw yourself at a bunch of things and see what sticks.
So, now that you've been in the industry for this long, in terms of your other creative ventures, do you want to expand those things, or are you just doing it as a hobby right now?
For me, those are hobbies.
Okay.
I kind of know my track, and obviously I have other career goals and stuff that I want to get to beyond where I'm at right now.
Right.
But I don't want to. One thing that I found, and I can't speak to anybody else, but for me, I found that when I turned drawing into a job, it made me want to draw less at home. And it's because I was drawing so much as work, and I kind of associated with that.
Right.
So, like, with the camera and with, like, I don't know, the keyboard and stuff like that, other things that I've picked up in the meantime, I kind of want to keep them as hobbies, kind of want to keep them pure to a degree, because I don't want to lose that special drive for them, too.
Right.
For me, the minute something, maybe it's because, like, I hated doing homework when I was a kid, and I don't want to turn these hobbies into feeling like homework.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am at with it. If I want to do freelance, I can always do storyboards for freelance or something, or illustrations, or.
But it's actually weird though. It's because it's like a mental decision that we make in that regard, where it's like, okay, because I've been drawing. But if you can trick yourself in a way where you're like, let me remember the passion that I had prior to getting the job that I'm in, and then you can still do it at home.
Oh yeah.
Because like, for example, I did daily 3D artwork for a long time, and the same thing. I was modeling at work, and then when I'd get home, I'd be like, I've been doing this all day. Do I really want to sit on the computer? But then, that thought in itself, I'm like, let me see if I can conquer this. There was a challenge more so, and then when you kind of hack that, then things get interesting, and then it's like you become above average in a sense, where it's like where people usually are like, I'm gonna draw the line. You kind of try to push to see what happens. But I understand where you're coming from, because the same thing, that those are the thoughts that we battle with every day, right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of starting to get into it now, or like I finally, maybe it's because I went away for a little bit. I took a little bit of a sabbatical from the industry.
Charge your batteries.
Yeah, kind of. So I came back feeling a little recharged because I'd been burnt out for a while, and now I'm like starting to like draw a little bit at home. Like I have a couple of ideas that I'm working for like, so to board out a couple of storyboard sequences, one for like a short and stuff. I don't know if I'd ever take it past boards.
Like your own?
Yeah, just like a little personal project. And I hadn't had personal projects for a while. Yeah. So I'm trying to
That's
like
very
get that
important
to point.
though. Yeah. Like doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
Like as much as working for the man is alright, pays the bills and everything, and you might even be working on something you're passionate about, and then you're working with the company, and as a community you're growing together. Yeah. But having your own stuff brings a different level of fulfillment and satisfaction, which is very important. And that applies to everybody else, that even outside the creative industry, it's like you need to have something to have that creative outlet. Yeah. Even if it isn't creative, if it's something that, I don't know, redundant or whatever.
Yeah. Getting away, I think, helps. In my case, I've been grinding for about 5 years before I bothered to take a vacation. And so actually getting away for a little bit and kind of helped me
refresh your perspective on how you see
let me just kind of step back from everything and kind of relearn my love of everything again. And so when I came back,
how long were you gone for?
I was gone for 3 months, and it was just nothing but backpacking basically the entire time.
How was that?
Good. It was great, especially coming off of like, from when I graduated to about 2017, I hadn't taken a single vacation. I was here working nonstop.
From when you graduated to 2017, so that's like 5 years?
About, 5 or 6. And I went to Peru, and that was kind of fun. Saw Machu Picchu and all that stuff. But then there was some drama on that trip, so it didn't really feel like a relaxing kind of step away from everything. Did you go by yourself? No, I went with a group of friends, and not everybody was compatible to be together on the trip. So that kind of sucked the fun out of it. So I came back almost more stressed than I left. Really? And then another couple of years hit by. So this past spring, I decided, even though a couple of other positions, like my contract was ending in April, and there were a couple things that were coming up my way work-wise that I could have taken, and I decided, no, I need to just step away from everything for a bit, because I wasn't in a I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I really needed to reset my battery, so I just kind of hopped on a plane and I was just dicking around in Asia for 3 months. It was nothing but my camera and my sketchbook and a couple of watercolors and everything that I could carry on one backpack, and that was it.
So what do you take on a backpacking trip that's 3 months long? How do you even plan? Like, okay, what are the 101s? Like,
all right,
necessities.
Okay, well, if you're going to a hot country, you need shorts. Obviously, don't pack too many clothes because you're going to be staying in hostels and stuff like that, and they all have laundry or there's laundry service nearby. Okay. So everybody packs like 3 weeks worth of stuff when they go on a trip. Even if they're going to Cancun or something, they'll pack for 3 weeks as if they're going to shit themselves twice every single day they're there. Yeah. You know, you don't need that. Enough for like 4 days, and then you just do laundry again. So that way you're carrying light when it comes to clothes. You bring a change. You bring a change of shoes, some a couple of pairs of socks, and that's it. Go, because you're gonna accumulate stuff on that trip too. Okay. And you don't want to be carrying all that around.
4 changes of clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, some socks.
That's it.
And commando, no underwear.
Okay, bring about 4 or 5 of those too, and then you're set. A couple bathing suits.
What else? A toothbrush, toothpaste.
Yeah, but all that stuff
medication,
you can pick up.
You can get. I guess,
can get all that there. That's the thing, right?
So where did you plan everything spontaneously, or did you do your research in advance?
I did some research. I knew most of what I wanted to do, like where I wanted to go, like the major beats. So I knew, okay, I was gonna hit Thailand. I knew I was gonna hit Singapore. I knew I was gonna hit. I wanted to hit Hong Kong and Korea. I was supposed to go to China for a month, but I didn't get approved for my visa. So at the last minute, so I had to kind of rearrange things a little bit. But I didn't figure out. I only had the major skeleton of it. I didn't figure out any of the actual meat of the trip until I was over there, because I wanted to leave it a little bit spontaneous.
Okay.
You know, so when I went there, I knew, okay, I'm spending 4 days in Singapore, and then I'm going to Kuala Lumpur. But I didn't plan anything that I was doing in Kuala Lumpur until I was at the airport ready to board the plane to Kuala Lumpur.
Jeez.
Basically to do that. I went in, I checked in at the airport, I sat in the gate, and that's when I did my research on the airport Wi-Fi. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go here.
Did you just Google things to do in Kuala Lumpur?
Kinda, yeah. I just went through a million different like travel blogs and stuff. I'm like, okay, what looks like it's very touristy, what looks like it's off the beaten path, because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to hit all the tourist spots. I did hit a couple, but like those colored steps and stuff that they got there. But
so 3 months is a long time though. Like,
it is.
Did you get like homesick?
A little bit. I left during the height of the Raptors playoffs.
Okay.
And so I was watching the games on my iPad on the shitty hostel Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
I really hated that I missed the hype that the city had during all that. Right. But other than that, like I was still talking with like my friends over here and stuff, keeping in touch with people, keeping abreast of what was going on in everybody's lives, and the back and forth, and working with my family and stuff. So I never really felt disconnected. So the homesickness didn't
but it takes a certain level of I don't know, independence, where you're comfortable with being by yourself.
Yeah, and
I've always been meaning to go on a trip like that as well, and then some people are like, wait, why would you go on a trip by yourself? And it's like, you don't understand, but
it's the best way to travel.
Yeah, and I guess you have a contrast point in terms of your previous trip. And I've had similar situations too, when you're with bigger groups of people and you want to do something, or there's certain scenarios and you're like, this would have been a lot better if I
Never travel with more than one other person. That's like my rule.
Just one person.
One person, and that's it. Because then it's easy to compromise.
Right.
We do one day for me, one thing for you. When there's like 4 people and they all want to do, or more, and they all want to do different things, it gets real messy really fast.
So, what were the highlights of your trips?
I mean, it was
the biggest one?
It was all good.
That comes to mind.
I really loved Hong Kong. Hong Kong was great. It sucks because when I was there, it was when that very first protest happened. So it was cool because I got to actually talk to a lot of the people who were at that first protest and kind of get their vibe on. And that's when they were telling me about like, you know, their 5 things that they wanted to hit. They wanted the government to deal with and stuff, the no extradition law and all that. They were kind of explaining it to me. So it was interesting to get like a very personal, almost first-hand account on what they were going to be fighting for. Unfortunately, right after I left, that's kind of when things escalated, and it got pretty messy over there, unfortunately. But that city is beautiful. Had an amazing culture. I had such a great time there, man.
Crazy stories?
There the craziest one would have been the protest, but I was at Disneyland that day, so I didn't actually get to see it.
Chinese Disneyland?
Yeah, Hong Kong Disneyland. I was like, this is the closest I've ever been to a Disney park. I'm gonna go. And
That's dope.
meanwhile, some crazy cultural moment was happening across the bay, and I missed it. But I heard about it the night of. They have this really wicked speakeasy culture there. Like they have tons of hidden bars all over the city. I remember I went to one that was like, you go walk into like a British style like umbrella shop, and then you go and you just say, hey, I want a table, and this lady at the counter, and she just rings a little like hotel bell on the counter, and then you see like on the wall, like way over here, 4 umbrellas like slide down and back like something out of a James Bond movie, and then the whole wall slides back, and then you go behind it, and there's this massive jazz club back there.
It's sick.
So I just went back there. I struck up a conversation with a few people that was over there. We just started pounding back drinks,
So
and then ended up
do
doing
a lot
like
of
a bunch
people
of them
speak English
in Hong Kong. Yeah. I didn't run into unless I was somewhere very very rural. I didn't run into an issue with like the language
Communication.
pretty much anywhere.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, even when we couldn't understand, like I could draw something out and they could figure it out that way. Or I had like a Google Translate on my phone. I never really, only once I think did it come up, and that's because I was in this really small place in Thailand at this like little restaurant. And that was
There's
it.
a communication barrier.
Yeah, yeah. It was awkward because we were at a restaurant and it ended up coming time to pay the bill, and we couldn't actually communicate with each other to actually figure out how to pay it and stuff. So things got a little heated, but yeah. Otherwise, I had no problem.
That's dope. So what's the recommended amount of money to take on a trip like that?
For Asia, I
3
found
months is a long
for
time.
3 months. So you can travel and live pretty easy over there for like, your dollar goes pretty far. So you could, $2,000 a month, and you're living pretty good over there. Unless you hit like, some places in China are really expensive. Hong Kong is really expensive, and Korea is pretty expensive as well. Taiwan I found was kind of mid-range, and Singapore is basically like Toronto.
Right.
But everywhere else, if you're in Thailand, everything's really cheap over there, and same with like Malaysia and Indonesia and Vietnam and stuff. So $2,000 a month, and you're
That's
covered.
actually pretty crazy when you put it into perspective, because people pay $2,000 for a week on an all-inclusive.
Yeah, I don't know why.
So you can go to Asia for a month. On a specific flight.
I've never understood the whole I'm gonna go to Cancun and chill on a resort for vacation. Like I've never been on one of those trips, and I've just never really gotten them. When I like to travel, I like to go and kind of immerse myself in the culture, not just hang out on a resort.
I've been on too many trips where it's a resort, like bachelor parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I went on one trip to Colombia, Cartagena and Medellin, and that was like a more cultural exploration one. And then when I got back from that, I was like, the memories and the experiences I had on this trip, like compared to the resorts.
Yeah.
Because the resort is like, it's almost like you have cheat codes enabled.
Yeah.
In this enclosed environment.
Yeah, you drink, you swim.
It's like you have
what else
unlimited
can do?
access to food, drinks, you can party, there's a beach.
Yeah.
But then after the 3rd or 4th day, you're like, okay, this is probably how rich people feel. They get bored. They're like, all right, what else can I do outside of eat, sleep, party?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know why you want to go somewhere and not see how the people who are there live, right? Or vice versa when they're coming here. And
I feel like that's the most perspective shifting experience that you can have.
Yeah.
Like seeing how other people live and then comparing it to all the luxuries we have here.
Yeah, and I realized how privileged we are over here. But also, everybody's pretty similar across the world. Like unless you're like the window dressing is different.
In terms of how they carry themselves. And
Yeah,
on the personal level.
I found everybody. It's like once you actually just talking with like regular people over there, they all have the same want. They just want to laugh with their friends, take care of their kids, have good food, and and be comfortable.
Did you come into any dangerous encounters? Because 3 months is a long time for a lot to happen.
You know what? It's funny. I came into a couple of life-threatening situations.
Couple.
Yeah, but they weren't like. They were more nature versus like related.
Okay.
So like I was in this place in Thailand. They have this kind of south central Thailand. It's south of Bangkok by like a few hours, but north of like Phuket and stuff. It's called I'm blanking on the name. Khao Sok, I think. It's basically like this. You know how Vietnam has Ha Long Bay?
Okay.
It's kind of like Thailand's version of it, and it's this massive man-made lake. So we went over there, And it was cool because you have to take this boat in for like 2 hours, basically, like this little dinghy that you're on, and they bring you up to these traditional Thai huts that are like made out of bamboo and stuff that are floating on the water, just like suspended. And we were staying there for like a couple nights. But the problem is the rainy season had just started, and so it was pouring like rainforest tropical kind of rainstorm the entire time. But when you're over there, if you booked a tour or anything, you're taking that tour, rain or shine.
Regardless, okay.
So it was actually one of the coolest things I did, because it was like, I'm a guy raised on Indiana Jones, so it was like I get to live my dream basically. They took us on this tour of the jungle, and we're sitting there and it's pouring rain, and we're trekking up vines and over hills and stuff, and down through rivers. I gotta like carry my bag over my head like this as I'm like in waist high water and stuff, in like leech infested rivers and stuff. Like one guy got a leech on his dick, and the poor guy, he was bleeding for like the next 2 days.
Fuck.
Because the leeches, they have this like saliva or whatever that keeps the wound open. You look like you're gonna puke.
On your dick? Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah. I don't know if it's on his dick or like right by it, like where the thigh and the dick meet, basically. Okay. And but yeah, so it keeps the wound open, so it keeps bleeding, so the leech can still eat.
Still drink. Yeah.
So yeah, the poor guy looked like he was bleeding for the rest of the trip. And luckily I didn't get caught by one of those. But it was just cool. We're just hiking through all this trek. It feels very adventure-y. And at the top we get to this the mouth of like the river into a cave. And they give us like the helmets with like the little light and stuff because we're gonna go spelunking in it, basically. And we get in, and again, it's pouring rain the entire time. So we go into the cave. We're trekking through it for about a couple of minutes. And I remember I went through this one part, this like dip in it, that was where the water was about just a little bit above my ankles.
Okay.
As we're walking in, and we keep walking, everybody's talking, and I'm closer to the back of the group, and the tour guide's up at the front. And all of a sudden, the people in front of me stop, almost like a cascade, like a domino. And we're all wondering what's going on. And then all of a sudden, we hear the tour guide go like, "Get back! Everybody go! Get out!
Oh, shit.
And the water apparently, because the rain, so much water had built up in the cave from the rain, it was filling up really fast. So that area that was up, where the water was up to my shins, when I doubled back through it, it was now up past my belly button.
Oh, fuck.
And that was maybe a couple minutes, right? So we're all booking it to try and get out there before getting trapped. And
how far in were you guys in the cave?
We were about like 8 minutes in, but it only took us about 4 to get back out.
Right. That's still pretty crazy.
Yeah, we were this close to be showing up on the news.
Oh my God.
Elon would have had to show up with his submarine to save us. And so we all kind of ran out of there, caught our breath. And that's when the tour guide decides to tell us, "Oh yeah, we should have been a little bit more careful. Like 9 people have died in there." Like so.
Yeah, that's on the tour guide for taking him into a cave when it's pouring outside.
I will say that it was probably one of the most memorable parts of the trip and one of the most fun. So I'm kind of thankful for that. And then the next day, I almost got lost in a bat cave as well and lost my tour. So that was pretty rough.
You almost got lost in what sense?
So the caves there, the cave systems are all winding, and you're climbing up over like stalagmites and stalactites and stuff. And it's very easy to lose your way because there's like one path through that'll get you from the entrance to the deep point.
So it's a maze essentially.
Basically, yeah. And I was there. There was a bunch of kids that were like 19, 20 that were there, and because I'm like 28, I just got it in my head. I was like, okay, I gotta, help them out and parent a little bit. And we were all hanging back while the tour guide went back up to take everybody back out. And some people had gone further in than I had, so I was just waiting for everybody to come out to just make sure that nobody got left behind. But then as we were going out, one of the kids took a wrong turn, and we ended up getting lost in there for about 25 minutes before we finally found our way back out. Yeah. And managed to squeeze through like a rock, hop over a thing that we weren't supposed to hop over, and end up getting back onto the path that we needed to get back out before they left us.
So there's a tour guide on this one too? Or?
Yeah, they don't give a shit over there, man. They don't care.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Cuba when we went scuba diving. Same thing, the tour guides don't care.
No. It was cool though. I got my scuba license while I was over there too, which is super fun. I loved it. I was about to ask you, you've done scuba diving just when you went to Asia? That's when I got my license. I spent about 3 days in Phuket doing my certification. So now I can go down to 18 meters, I think.
18 meters.
Yeah.
Scuba diving is scary too.
It is, and I'm not a great swimmer. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, but it was super. Once you're in there, once you get the hang of it, I think, and you learn not to like panic, you know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when your mind starts to comprehend where you are,
Yeah.
it's hard not to freak out and like hyperventilate. And
Yeah, but then you see like a fish go by and you're like, wow, I would have never seen this otherwise, right?
Yeah. And the tanks are pretty heavy too. When we got the backpack with the
Oh yeah, when you're up on the boat.
When you're up on the boat trying to get in, it's heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
And then that coming in and out of the water.
Yeah. I remember my first time. It took like 2 guys on the boat to yank me out of the water to get me up.
I don't think people realize how heavy those things are.
Yeah, it's very tiring. Mm-hmm. Did you do any scuba diving through like the currents and stuff?
No. When we went this was a while back, we went to Cuba and we did it like off of a bootleg tour guide.
Right.
So he charged us like a lot less, but it was a lot less safe at the same time. So at one point, it was just 3 of us, like me, my cousin, one of my other buddies, and the tour guide takes us, and we went probably not deep at all, maybe 5 meters, 10 meters, and then we would have to follow the tour guide. And at one point, my cousin, he like split off and started doing his own thing, and we're looking around like, where is this guy? And that's when the tour guide like snaps. He's like, okay, like where's the other guy? We're like, and you're in the water, so you're like,
yeah.
So we surfaced, which is not what you're supposed to do. Like all of us
surfaced.
And
real fast,
he was like
almost
almost a kilometer away, surfaced as well.
He had gotten caught?
No, he just was distracted by fishes and stuff and like lost us, I guess.
I remember the second day that I went, the specific thing because usually you'll do like 2 dives in a day, right? I remember the second one, they specifically dropped us off where there was a water current. So the idea there is that you're supposed to just kind of go with the current. The current takes you wherever. It kind of is. And again, as someone who's not a great swimmer, it was terrifying because I felt like when the instructor or whatever would go off somewhere, I had to sit there and force myself against like the current to try and get to where he was. Otherwise, I'd be carried off somewhere way over there and everything. It's so tiring. It's exhausting trying to get against the current.
What happens when you run out of energy and you're submerged?
You go limp and you just let it take you wherever it's gonna go, basically. Yeah. I'm surprised you guys didn't get the bends from surfacing as fast as you did, because you got to go up.
We didn't go too fast, right? But I've heard horror stories in that regard.
Yeah. It took me a while to figure out how to like do the proper like what is it, equalize or whatever in your ears and stuff. It took me a little bit to get the hang of that. So there was a lot of times where I was afraid I was going to blow my eardrums and stuff. Right. But once I got the hang of it, all you got to do is just blow into your nose with the nostril.
Blow into your nose, but it's also dangerous if you're not used to it or if you have too much earwax, apparently.
Oh, really?
Because apparently it compresses everything and you can, I guess, just shoves everything and packs it in there.
Right.
I didn't fuck up my eardrums from scuba diving, but we were diving into cenotes. And I'm like from like pretty high, like it was like 10 meters, 15 meters. There's like different levels.
Right.
And we jumped through the highest one, and I dived in like pretty deep, and my eardrums fucking like.
Well, yeah, because that first 10 meters in the water is like where the biggest pressure changes, apparently. So
that entire night, my eardrums were killing me, and I didn't know why. Like my ears, they didn't know why, but then I did research, and like whatever earwax you had is like deep inside there, all compact. So you need to like.
You have to go to doctors to flush it out?
Well, I had to, I don't remember what I did. I was like pouring hot water in it just to like release whatever it was, but the next day I was fine.
Yeah.
So what are the highlights from that trip? Because you must have plenty of stories. Like what do you recommend, like in terms of all the places that you had planned on going to? What's the the most recommended? So,
Bali.
Bali?
That's where I ended the trip. That wasn't originally going to be on part of the plan. That was kind of something that I added because I was going to go to Korea and get a tattoo from an artist that I follow on Instagram, which I ended up doing, but I was going to do that and then go to China and then end of my trip in China and come back. Because I didn't get the visa, I then had basically a month of my 3-month trip that I hadn't accounted for. So I decided to move things around. That's when I decided I went to Taiwan. I added that in there, which Taiwan's really cool.
This is dope.
There's this town called Jiufen, which is about an hour, 2-hour bus ride outside of Taipei. And it basically looks like, if you've ever seen Spirited Away, It looks like the hotel from that is what this town is. So at night it's beautiful, just red lanterns everywhere and stuff, and like traditional tea houses and stuff.
That's sick.
And then from there I went to Korea, and Seoul is amazing. And also one of the best hikes that I've ever had in my entire life was there.
Seoul, Korea?
Yeah, there's an island south of Seoul called Jeju, and they have a dormant volcano that's there. And the hike is exhausting, but so fulfilling when you get to the top. So that was really cool if you like kind of hikes and being out and about and stuff. But then Bali is just like, man, that place is paradise. It's just nothing but sun for 2 weeks.
Relaxing?
So relaxing. Yeah. That's where it was like the
How
resort
long,
kind of thing.
how long were you there for?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say.
So you had 2 weeks to decompress from your 3 months.
Essentially.
Or 2.5 month journey.
Yeah. If I had come straight back after like Korea or something and I'd gone straight to work, I would have been just as exhausted as when I left. That was the last 2 weeks where I did nothing but sit on the beach and eat frozen yogurt and just tan, was the most relaxing part. And that's what really allowed me to de-stress.
Right.
That's also where the third kind of life-threatening thing happened. Cause
Do tell.
so there's monkeys all over the place over there, right? There's if you go to this part in Bali called Ubud, which is like a lot of beautiful temples and stuff. They have these they have an actual monkey sanctuary there, and those guys, they just kind of wander around the town too, and they're basically like little gangs, and like I didn't run into any trouble with anybody while I was there. I didn't cross anybody. I didn't no mugging. Everyone was like, oh, you can get mugged or whatever. I didn't get nothing.
Right.
I was fine. I got along well with everybody. These monkeys, man, they came at me. They wanted my frozen yogurt so bad. They literally surrounded me. I swear to God, basically picked up a bottle and was ready to stab me with it.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and all I could do was, I was so intimidated, I just had to give it to him and back up slowly.
Right.
And then after that, a couple days later, I almost got my eyes clawed out by one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's this island that we did like a day trip to, and I don't know if you've ever seen. Let me see. I actually just looked at a photo of it. There's it's this really famous beach that you've probably seen in photos, where it's like steps that go down and it's kind of like a crescent shape. Okay. And it's like a beach at the bottom.
Okay.
And it's a super precarious, like you have to take like 1,000 steps to get down, and they're all basically just loose rocks and shit. And it takes like 3 hours to get down there.
3 hours.
Basically, most of the people who go down end up staying the night on the beach. They don't come back up until the next day. But I didn't have time to do that because I was only there for the day. So I was just kind of sitting there with my camera, taking photos, and and I couldn't get the angle that I wanted. So I decided I was going to go up over here where there was this tree, and I was going to walk over, and because it was a better angle. And I'm just sitting there taking photos for like a couple minutes, and the person I was with, she turned to me and was like, "Oh, you're really calm considering what's going on right now." And I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "There's a monkey right there." And I turn and I look, and there's a monkey on a branch, literally right here, right by my face. And we lock eyes, and that's a big no-no for primates.
Right.
That's a serious act of aggression,
Right.
basically. And it was literally like a cartoon.
Challenged them.
Basically. And it was like a cartoon where we were both like staring at each other dumbfounded, because I don't think he had noticed me either, because I had my face in the camera.
All right.
And we're staring at each other, and we kind of like blink for like a beat, and then all of a sudden he just like hisses at me, and he starts clawing at my eyes, and I had to pull like some Mike Tyson slip to get out from under him. But yeah, I almost lost a chunk of my face to that.
What kind of monkeys are there in Bali?
Yeah, I don't know what the type they're called. They're like little guys. They look like
I'll look it
standard. Up. Yeah. I'd pull up a phone, but then the viewers couldn't see it.
Right.
But they're small, but man, they're vicious. They're mean. I saw them rob so many people, especially the tourists at the monkey sanctuary. This lady, they all swarmed at her just so they could get all the Oreos that were in her backpack.
Oh man.
Yeah, she was freaking the fuck
There's a
out.
bunch of videos online where they take in India as well.
Yeah.
Like they literally take people's phones and then they ask you to trade for something.
Yeah, that's all
like
true.
They'll run up a building and be like, they'll just stand there with your phone until you give them something that's worthy of them to give you your phone back.
Yeah. Frozen yogurt, if they ever steal your phone in Bali, that's the way to get it back.
I'd fight a monkey unless it was a chimpanzee.
No. These guys were small, but man, they get you in numbers.
That's true. So, travel, yes. Opening the eyes, shifting perspective. Do you do anything in regards to, I don't know, mindfulness, journaling, meditation?
A little bit here and there. Once I got back from one thing I started last year was I started kind of keeping a journal, because I found that just writing out even just the day's events, I found it was just like a nice way to one, get your eyes away from a screen at the end of the night and kind of de-stress. And I found it was good to kind of get things out of my system. And I was doing that while I was overseas as well, and I found that really helpful. I do meditate a little bit, but I'm a little inconsistent with it. But honestly, the travel was the big thing, because I came back. I met so many interesting people while I was over there that I came back with a lot of different perspective on a lot of things.
So what would you say your greatest epiphany moment on those travels was?
So that everybody's literally exactly the same. Everybody that I met, I was like, okay, that's my dad. That's my mom. That's the cousin exactly like that. You know, that's this friend that I have. That's this friend that I have. It was very much, you know.
It's actually pretty crazy. I've noticed that as well in terms of when you start meeting mass amounts of people.
Yeah.
You're like, this person is like, they're cut from the same cloth as...
All the differences are just window dressing.
That's dope, yeah. It's just culture, ideologies, all that kind of stuff that kind of mask the true nature of who someone is.
Yeah, you wash all that away and you realize everybody's more or less the same. So that was it. And it was just interesting to talk to different people from different perspectives. I've met so many people that were like, when I asked them why they were on the trip, they were like, oh yeah, I was tired of my job, so I quit it, and I don't know what I'm doing now, but I'm just going to travel for a while and find myself. Exactly. Yeah. So many people like that. And then I also just met weird people, like interesting people. Like I met a guy who designs nukes for submarines and stuff
like bombs.
Yeah. So that was a interesting, heated conversation at the hostel bar that one night. But
how are the hostels? Like, are they?
You can go to shitty ones.
Well kept, shitty.
Yeah, you do a little bit of research. Yeah, but they're still super cheap. You can do like I was spending like $15 a night, and I'd be in a room maybe with 4 other people, and they were always really clean, like nice places. For like $30 a night, $40 a night, you get your own private room in them, and it's basically like a 5-star hotel here. Like it was super, super nice.
Right.
And then they're all community hubs for tourists and for locals too. So typically every single one that I went to had like a really nice bar, so there was always a party going on at night, and it was cool because then you could go out and explore during the day, and during the evening and stuff, go a bit of nightlife, and then you can come back to the hostel and you can kind of talk to all the people that you met maybe at breakfast and stuff, and kind of just discuss what all the different cool shit that you did and make plans for the next day. Everyone just gets drunk and shoots the shit and has a good time.
That's dope. So what's next up on your travel list?
Well, this year I've realized that I haven't seen enough of Canada. So in about a month, I'm going to go to Halifax and explore the East Coast for a little bit. And then I think later this year, I'm going to go to Vancouver. And then the next big one I've got planned is Argentina next year. And then I have another massive 3-month one kind of in the works, but that one's a couple years away.
Dope.
Yeah.
So I'd ask you a general question that I usually ask most people in terms of, but you already answered it. So it's in regards to like what gets you up in the morning, but you've kind of made it clear that you becoming, as like you said, growing in different aspects of life, becoming the strongest version of yourself is what I usually say. But that's like the best way to look at things. But no, dope. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
And we covered a lot of subjects. I'm sure people will find some things very helpful as far as the animation industry goes. And yeah, travel, open your eyes. We get so tangled in this little concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And it does become very black and white after a while, especially when you get into a very redundant routine. And then when you go to other places, like that's one thing about Toronto that I've noticed is like it's very concrete, right? When you go to other places and you see like rolling hills and like more nature, you realize how tiny and insignificant you are when it comes to the grand scheme of things. And it's hard to get that realization when you're in the city.
I think it's super important as creatives to sometimes put the pencil down and go out and find something new, because all that stuff is going to inspire you to create new stories and new pieces of work, and just kind of get your creative juices flowing again. Too often, if we're drawing the same thing over and over again, we lose that drive. So finding time to get away and explore somewhere new, it's all going to feed back into your work.
Balance, work. Charge. Yeah. Keep the loop going. Don't burn yourself out. It's hard not to burn yourself out in the city, though.
Yeah.
All right, my brother. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Peace.
for you.